What's up, Taiwan? I'm Laurel Stewart with the news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's two biggest political parties are going on tour. The Kuomintang and the Democratic Progressive Party are holding a series of events across the country to convince voters that they deserve control of Taiwan's legislature. Leslie Liao has more.
Two political parties, two recall movements, one legislature. The opposition Kuomintang, in coalition with the smaller Taiwan People's Party, has a majority over the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, leading to deadlocks over everything from the judiciary to the country's budget. Disagreements have boiled over, with civic groups initiating recall movements to take down lawmakers on both sides. The KMT and DPP are now stepping in to defend their legislators. At a DPP event in Hualien, a traditionally KMT-leaning area, the party said that KMT's budget cuts are detrimental to the government's functioning, and it wants to give control back to the people.
让我们花莲带着整个台湾的罢免团队前进，好不好？让我们带着民主前进，好不好？让花莲回归荣耀，让花莲成为火车头，我们重新夺回台湾的民主，好不好？
花莲进步，花莲观光产业，花莲百工百业的阻碍，给摆脱掉。 排除台湾民主的障碍，排除对国家持续发展的障碍，我们用力把它排除掉，好不好？
But for the KMT, which faces nearly 3 dozen recall motions against their legislators, they say keeping their lawmakers in office will stop the ruling party from overspending taxpayers' money.
还钱于民，这是一个公平正义，不是我说的，你也说过，我也说过，我们要落实还钱于民，让新北市民能够享有安居乐业好生活，好不好？民进党这几位立法委员全部反对将这钱，予咱的地方，伊讲钱拢爱留伫中央，真正应该罢免的，是这无顾咱新北市。 Both
the DPP and KMT are touring the country, telling two sides of the same story. At stake is the country's legislature, but the decision will ultimately rest with the people. Patrick Chen, Justin Wu, Hank Xu, and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Amid growing threats from China, more people in Taiwan are stepping up to protect their country, turning to civil defense groups for training. Sandy Chi takes us to a weekend drill in Taipei.
From mass casualty treatment to air raid response, evasion tactics and shelter location exercises. This is the 5th Blue Magpie operation, a civil defense exercise, aiming to prepare Taiwan citizens for potential wartime emergencies and disasters.
我们的演训，它采取无脚本，因为唯有无脚本的状况，这样子的训练才是最真实的。
This drill in Taipei, organized by the non-profit Kuma Academy, is part of an ongoing effort to prepare the public for a worst-case scenario. Taiwan faces growing threats from China and is also prone to natural disasters like earthquakes and typhoons. The Civil Defense Group regularly trains civilians in basic first aid, evacuation planning, spotting disinformation from China, and cybersecurity.
我们是文山区的一个民防自训团体，我们平常就有在做基本的急救训练、野外求生，然后我们借由每一次的黑熊训练、黑熊学院的训练行动啊，我们把它当成一个复习，然后自我检验一下。
This year, over 100 people participated, the highest number since Kuma Academy started such exercises in 2023. And those who are new to this kind of training say it's a valuable lesson.
就感觉未来遇到的突发状况，或许还要再考虑到家人或者是宠物之类，应该会比今天的还要更复杂。但今天的都这么疲于应付的话，感觉我还有很多功课要做。
The government is also stepping up efforts to strengthen civil defense, with the goal of training 100,000 civilians as disaster prevention specialists by 2025. And more people take part in these drills. The hope is to build a stronger and more prepared public. Kamashu and Tanichi for TaiwanPlus.
Dialogue, cooperation and peace. That's what the foreign ministers from Japan, South Korea and China are striving for at a trilateral meeting in Tokyo.
現在、国際情勢は厳しさを増し、まさに歴史の転換点にあると申し上げて過言ではないと思います。そうした中で、対話と協調を通じて分断と対立を乗り越える努力を行っていくことが今まで以上に重要になってきております。
It was the first meeting of foreign ministers from the three countries since 2023. Discussions focused on North Korea's denuclearization, trade and regional stability. The talks aim to set the stage for a summit between the countries' leaders. While South Korea and Japan are key US allies, the meeting comes amid uncertainty over US President Donald Trump's diplomatic commitments. Thousands of Indonesian students took to the streets last week protesting a move that will allow military officers to serve in the government. Those who support the amendment say that it will help secure the country's national security. But critics are worried it will lead to a backsliding to Indonesia's authoritarian days. To learn more, Gino Lopez spoke to DZ Simanjuntak from the IC's Yusof Ishak Institute, based in Singapore.
So what can we expect from the Prabowo administration now that the amendment to Indonesia's military law of 2004 has been passed?
I see a strengthening of the military over the civilian leadership, going forward. And this is disconcerting. The revision of the military law was the initiative of the parliament and not of the commander of the armed forces. Right? So this is bewildering. If we go deeper here, the question would be, when these military officers commit corruption or fraud or other offenses connected to their civilian positions, will they be tried in civilian or military courts? This is one of the fundamental questions if we are to establish civilian supremacy in a democratic country.
Indonesia developed into a democratic society after the downfall of the Suharto regime in 1998. What impact will these new legal amendments have on the country's democracy?
This revision, right, of the military law is one in a string of new laws or law revisions or policies that pose a challenge to the fundamental basis of Indonesia's democracy in general. The silver lining is, we have to have a silver lining, right, in all situations, that this situation actually strengthens civil society in Indonesia. Civil society is, interestingly, the one keeping the checks and balances mechanism still working in Indonesia, albeit from outside of the system, and in a time when democratic institutions are severely weakened.
Are there any other ways civil society can ensure accountability of military officials in the civilian government?
I think the first thing I expect that the civil society would consider to ask for a judicial review from the Constitutional Court, especially because we know that the parliament had not followed the principle of meaningful participation during their deliberation of the bill, which should have adequately included the society, right? Another way also is to continue critically observing and protesting. Continuing being vigilant is important, but of course it would take a lot of civil society energy. But we don't have any other choice. This is important for Indonesia's democracy going forward.
That was DZ Simanjuntak from the IC's Yusof Ishak Institute. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, let's take a stroll through the world's largest tulip garden, which has opened in the Dutch city of Lies. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next time.